I'm making a little early video because we got some stuff going on with the weather, and not sure what the garden's going to look like tomorrow. We had a very heavy thunderstorm last night, not severe, but lots and lots of rain. So even though the temperature is about 90 degrees and the humidity is almost that high, the pumpkins are not fainting today. Of course, pumpkin leaves do take up quite a bit of moisture for the plant, so that might be another reason. But yeah, we got a few things going on. We got about 3 pumpkins, and the theme of this video is going to be the differences between pepo pumpkins and maxima pumpkins. And maximas are the giants, pepos are the ones you see here. And one thing that pepos do that maximas don't is the leaves cover the fruit. So you can't necessarily see how many pumpkins you have because the leaves are big enough. This is actually a small pepo leaf. They can be up to 2 feet across. Anyway, they cover the fruit, so not only can you not see how many you have, but also there's no sun scald, which is a huge problem with maximas, which have very small round leaves. And of course the fruit can get up to 2,000 pounds if carefully cultivated. So sun scald is a huge problem, and you see people having to put up tents and throw blankets over the fruit and all that good stuff. I've got about 3 pumpkins in here, but I can't see them right now. I can only see maybe 1, but it's so muddy in there I can't get in to show it to you. So anyway, as I said, the weather's interesting. We may have what they call a derecho tonight. That's a long-lasting straight line wind accompanying a line of thunderstorms, squall line I guess they call it. That's one forecaster. The other forecaster is saying long track tornadoes, which is a totally different but equally damaging, even more damaging event. Since they're forecasting with such certainty, I'm pretty sure nothing's going to happen. But nonetheless, I thought I'd get out here and show you what's going on as of today. This is Wednesday, and what's the date? 28th. And our tomatoes, I have never seen, I know that big beef grows in clusters, but there you go. I've never seen clusters like this. They're starting to turn red, but I've seen clusters of maybe 4, but not 6, 7. So it's holding the fruit size down, which is fine. Big tomatoes are fun, but you only get a few of them. So, and over here, I think I was calling this Beef Master. This is actually beef steak that came up from 3 poor little beefsteak plants that I bought last year that were crammed together in a small flower pot. And over here, I think we have our first full Jew pepper. Let's see if I can get that on the camera. Of course not. Yeah, it's there. So, things are looking up. And we've had about 4 or 5 cucumbers. There's one right there. There's about 5 more on the plants. So that's doing well. I think I may... Hi there. Hi, Mila. I may use Bush Champion as my cucumber in the future. And also a very interesting sunflower. And we'll close on that. There we go. All right, I'll see you again in a few days. it's a couple days later, and we had a big storm, and the damage is still somewhat visible. It wasn't as bad as they were saying. They were saying 100-mile-an-hour winds and blah blah blah, but it really wasn't that bad. The people across the street lost power for 8 hours, though. That was bad. Anyway, you're looking at Corvette, and Corvette is doing very, very well. And to keep it doing very, very well, I did something I don't normally do. I broke out the Sevin, S-E-V-I-N spray last night, because I've worked out that a good deal of the problem I had in my garden last year was squash bugs. And they were trying to take over again this year, and the Ortho 3-in-1 was helping, but it wasn't eliminating them. So I gave it a punch of 7 late last night after the bees had gone home. And we'll see if that works. So we do have about 2 or 3 pumpkins. And as I will tell you later, in the later part of the video, you can't see them because the leaves of the pumpkins, of this kind of pumpkin, are so huge. And also, although the Corvette's, that is actually a magic lantern, you got a little bit of a vine going there, as you can see. You don't see that so much. There's our mystery pumpkin, which is vining out right away, so I don't know that it's a Corvette or a magic lantern. So we'll see. Over here, past the compost heap, we have Howden, which is a classic vining pumpkin, vining jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. And that, you see the difference here. You see those little puffy plants with little vines on them, and you see this. It's probably already about 7 feet long. This is Howden. And I'm going to, since I don't have an example of a maxima leaf, which I'm going to discuss later, I'm going to show you one of the Howden leaves. This is a classic, over here, a classic pepo, or jack-o'-lantern leaf. And over here is your Howden leaf, which is, well, actually, that's would be a leaf that you'd see on a maxima pumpkin. And you see it's small and round. So that's one of the differences that you'll look for in pumpkin vines. If you're interested in growing jack-o'-lanterns, you want big leaves. You don't want small round leaves. So, anyway, our sunflowers are blooming like crazy. And we've harvested 3 small tomatoes, all of them big beefs, and about 4 cucumbers have been harvested. I may harvest another one today. This is Bush Champion, and I'm very pleased with it. I think I'm going to harvest that one, because one thing I have noticed, these have a very sweet flavor, but they also have a very thick skin. So you do have to peel them. And I imagine that only gets worse as they get older. So I'm going to take this one right now. And yeah, lots and lots of big beef. As I said in the other video, they're growing in clusters and they're staying small this year, which is fine. Looks like another one should be harvestable shortly. And what's really exciting, before we go into the main point of the video, and I don't know if that other video I did is going to be before or after this one, so I apologize if you're confused right now, so am I. We have full dew jalapenos. There's about 2 on that plant, and they're definitely to over here. Oops. There we go. But I don't know if I'm getting them on the viewfinder. Let's see here. It's very windy today. But there's two. Fooled you. I'm very excited about that. Because the tam jalapeno is a little too hot for me. Okay. The other thing I did is I planted some white icicle radish seeds. Because I read a claim online that they help drive squash bugs away. So it'll be a few days before those come up. But meantime, I planted regular radishes over here for the fall. So, and also behind them is lettuce, which takes forever to come up. And behind that is a little bit of purslane and, wait a minute, there's carrots that take forever to grow up. And then behind that is lettuce, which hasn't come up yet, and purslane, which is usable in a salad. Okay, I'll be back in a minute, and we'll talk about the differences between giant pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. Okay, here we go. So, I said last week that I started this channel. Actually, it was on my other channel that I started, but a few years ago I started this channel. Because most of what you find on the internet is actually information about growing giant pumpkins. And that can be quite intimidating. And I am seeing this a bit on the groups on MeWe and Facebook, Backyard Pumpkin Growers Society, that newcomers are quite intimidated and quite confused about the steps of growing a jack-o'-lantern. There is a channel that I recommend you watch. It's about growing giant pumpkins, and this guy is a wonderful giant pumpkin grower, and he really goes all out. He's got a greenhouse, well actually it's a tent, and he's got a little bit of everything. He's got fans, he's got blankets, he manipulates the vines so that they're straight, he hand pollinates, he does everything. And we have newcomers coming into our group. He's not the only one. There's lots of them like this. And there's nothing wrong with it. But that's the way you grow a giant pumpkin for a prize at the county fair. You don't have to do that with your jack-o'-lanterns. And what we got here are jack-o'-lanterns. Jack-o'-lanterns are easier to grow than giants. And I've already given you some giveaways as to what kind of pumpkin you're growing. The giant pumpkin leaves are, excuse me, small and round. Jack-o'-lantern leaves tend to be large. There are two different genuses, or I don't know if genus is the word, two different species that we're talking about here. The maxima, excuse me, which is the giant, and the pepo, which is, well, both of these genuses cover a large area of ground, but wow, we got a lot of bees today. Anyway, both of these genuses cover a large area of ground, everything from squashes to pie pumpkins, you know. But pepos are generally jack-o'-lanterns, and jack-o'-lanterns are the smaller pumpkins. We got some wind, so I'm going to try to manipulate the camera here. The reason this is important is sometimes you'll look at a seed packet and it'll say pepo and it's actually a maxima. So below the video I'll be listing a few varieties that I have grown that turned out to be maximas, and they were listed as pepos. So that is something to be aware of, but don't trust the seed packets for that. Just trust your own research, and I'll try to help you out. Okay. Now, the next thing. You don't need a tent to grow your jack-o'-lanterns. You don't need blankets, because like I discussed earlier, the leaves are huge. They will cover the pumpkins. You don't need a tent. If you grow short vine jack-o'-lanterns, you can grow them very close together like these are grown. What else would be different? You don't have to trim the vine down to one pumpkin. You don't have to hand pollinate generally. As I just said, we have a lot of bees here, so I don't have a problem with that. If you know that there's a bee problem in your neighborhood, like you're growing tomatoes and you're not getting any tomatoes because there's flowers but there's no bees, okay, then go ahead and watch a video on hand pollinating. But if you're getting fruit off of other kinds of vegetables, and like me, you're sitting out here early in the morning and you're seeing bees all over the place, or not even just bees, wasps pollinate, other insects pollinate. Bees, the honeybee is actually introduced to the U.S. I think in the 1600s. It was introduced a long time ago. It's actually not a native species. There were other creatures here doing the pollinating before the honeybees. So there are lots of creatures who do pollinating. So you don't have to do it by hand. The reason that giant pumpkin growers do this is to get the perfect giant pumpkin. Jack-o'-lanterns, you don't care if they got a few lumps and bumps, or that one part doesn't grow as well as the rest, unless you're going to sell them. And even then, I've seen very funny looking pumpkins get sold. So yeah, actually, what you do with the jack-o'-lanterns, I would start them in not peat pots but fiber pots. I don't believe in peat pots, but and do not remove them from the peat pot. Just put platinol in the ground. The pot will dissolve, or the fiber pot. And make sure they get a lot of sun, a lot of water, a lot of food. And we'll discuss next week controlling pests, because when I had my old garden, my biggest problem was cucumber beetles. Here I rarely see them, but I'm seeing a river of squash bugs. And I think they helped destroy my garden last year. And we'll discuss that more in future videos. But I am waging an all-out war on squash bugs, and you probably will have to too. And the other problem is powdery mildew, and there's a couple of weapons against that. But there's a little bit of fuss with growing jack-o'-lanterns, but not like giant pumpkins. And if you've been with me a while, in past years I have grown maximas, and I never do very well, and the reason is I don't fuss. With jack-o'-lanterns, you don't have to. You can fuss if you want to, but you don't have to. Just put them in the ground, keep the bugs under control, feed them, give them lots of sun, and you should have pumpkins. And again, don't feed them too much nitrogen. And that's about it. So that will be this week's video, and I hope to see you next week. Please like and subscribe, and join our groups on MeWe and Facebook. Again, they are called Backyard Pumpkin Growers Society. Okay, take care. See ya.